When you stand inches from a Van Gogh, the painting transforms into something entirely different. Thick ridges of paint cast tiny shadows. Brushstrokes become sculptural, and you realize you're not just looking at art, you're experiencing the physical record of every movement the artist made. This is the world of texture, technique, and craftsmanship in art history, where the intimate details reveal secrets that change everything we thought we knew about masterpieces. From the moment Titian pioneered impasto in the Venetian Renaissance, applying paint so thick it projected from the canvas like relief sculpture, artists discovered they could manipulate light itself through texture, making highlights brighter and shadows darker, simply by building up ridges and valleys of pigment. Rembrandt mastered this technique over a century, before the word impasto even existed, using palette knives, brushes, and even his bare hands to create surfaces so tactile you can see the wrinkles in aging skin and the sparkle of jewels in his portraits. Van Gogh took it to extremes. In the 70 days before his death, he averaged one painting per day, loading his brush with paint straight from the tube and applying it in thick, nervous dabs that captured not just what he saw, but the emotional intensity of the moment. The Starry Night's swirling sky isn't just painted, it's sculpted, with each stroke creating physical dimension that makes the heavens seem to move. But impasto is only one side of the story. At the opposite end of the spectrum lies glazing, the painstaking Renaissance technique where artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Titian, and Rembrandt built up thin, translucent layers of paint to create luminous depth. Da Vinci used dozens of delicate glazes to create the Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile, and those subtle transitions between light and shadow that seem to glow from within. Each glaze had to dry completely before the next could be applied, and artists had to use the lightest touch to avoid damaging underlying layers, a process that could take months or even years to complete. Many masters combined both techniques in a single painting, using soft glazes for atmospheric backgrounds and thick impasto for foreground elements, creating a push and pull effect that guides the eye through the composition. Modern conservation technology has revolutionized our understanding of these techniques. Multispectral imaging and X-ray fluorescence can now peer beneath the surface to reveal hidden sketches, changes in composition, and the exact sequence of paint layers. When conservators analyzed Van Gogh's The Bedroom using X-ray imaging, they discovered brilliant blues on the walls and furniture that had been completely obscured by yellowed varnish and accumulated grime, transforming our understanding of his use of color symbolism. Cross-section analysis, where conservators remove a sample the size of a pencil lead and examine it under high magnification, reveals the layer cake structure of paintings. You can see the canvas, the ground layer, the imprimatura, the underpainting, the pictorial layer, and the varnish, each telling part of the story of how the artwork was created. These microscopic investigations can identify specific pigments, distinguish original paint from later restorations, and even help authenticate works when the artist's identity is in question. Venetian Renaissance painters favored a red earth preparatory layer to give warmth to their paintings, while 19th century British artists preferred white grounds. Details like these become fingerprints that help place works in time and space. The physical properties of paint itself shaped what artists could achieve. Oil paint's slow drying time allowed for the wet-on-wet alla prima technique favored by Impressionists, where visible brushstrokes and loose, spontaneous application captured fleeting moments of light. But this same slow drying also enabled the fat over lean rule, where each successive layer must contain more oil than the one below to prevent cracking, a principle that governed painting technique for centuries. Van Gogh's experimental use of new synthetic pigments created paintings of unprecedented vibrancy. But those same materials have proven vulnerable to fading and craquelure, creating conservation challenges that persist today. When you examine a Rembrandt portrait in raking light, illumination directed at a low angle across the surface, the texture comes alive, with cracks in the paint layer casting shadows and areas of thick impasto standing out in relief. The Baroque masters used this three-dimensional quality deliberately, building up highlights with thick white paint to catch the light, making armor gleam and fabric shimmer with an almost photographic realism. Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning pushed impasto to new extremes in the 20th century, applying paint with such gestural bravura that the physical qualities of the medium became the subject itself, transforming raw pigment into a record of pure action and emotion. Every brushstroke, every ridge of paint, every translucent glaze is a decision the artist made, a physical trace of their hand, their technique, their vision frozen in time. Understanding these intimate details doesn't diminish the magic of art. It deepens it, revealing the extraordinary skill, patience, and innovation required to create works that continue to move us centuries later.